Okay. Can somebody say something so I make sure I capture my incoming audio?
You stink.
Alright, perfect. I did just like... Okay, we'll forget about that. So for Hydro, so starting with SSC, um, for Hydros, there is like a good big ol' SSC map. HD.
4K, 60
Florida?
frames.
And that took us straight to the world. There's like a good map here. Some of our screenshots are based on like this HD map. So like we come in over here, and we pretty much clear over to this platform, and Hydross is right here, and then we have to clear all 6 of these platforms we could do before we could do Lurker. We used to like come over here and jump down off one of these pipes and like swim over and do some weird bullshit to avoid the platform trash here, but the maybe we'll be able to try it again. But when we tried to do it on the PTR, the fish got us anyway, and the fish seemed to just like hit for a ton. So that wasn't really an option. So there's some things that we have been comparing to like what we did before. But you'll see like some of the screenshots in here are just like these rooms for Leo, Karathress, and Tidewalker. Um, but assuming that everybody's going to at least watch a little bit of a video about, just the what the boss looks like, I'll try to kind of blast through these so we can go through like what range DPS need to worry about. So for the big thing on Hydros, for us, there's these 2 lines here. He starts as Frost, and whenever you cross him over one of these lines, then we have to do a tank swap and 4 ad spawn. So what we do in the beginning is when we pull him, there's elementals that are just like padding across here. So we just kind of like kill those without aggroing the boss. I make sure I have a lot of rage because I'm the frost resist tank, and then we pull by like me running in from the side and attacking him while he's standing over on this side. So that's when we have like uninterrupted access to hit the boss. That's typically when we're like gonna get a few misdirects out, and like pop lusts, because that's when we don't have to worry about any ads. We have we have about 45-50 seconds that we have on the boss, so we should be able to use like that full lust time. Um, but what he does is he applies a mark every 15 seconds that increases everybody's damage taken by his current element by a percentage that goes up from like it's like 5, 10, 25, 50, 100, 250. So on his 4th mark, that's when he increases the damage to 100%. And so before he does another mark 15 seconds later, that's going to take it to 250% damage. And even though we'll have full resist sets, it's not like, unless you resist his hit, then you pretty much just die. So like we're going to call out each of those marks, and between that 100% mark and about 10 seconds after it, we're going to transition the boss by pulling him over this line. So you can see that the line here, like there's 2 different ones. So like me as the frost resist tank pulling it over to bear as our nature resist tank, like I have to go about just like through that line where the banners are. But when he takes him back to the frost, he kind of like has to go a little bit further back. Um, During this time, like essentially within the 5 seconds after that 4th mark, we're gonna call for everybody to stop DPS, like not be casting any more dots, take your pets off the boss and stuff like that, and then we'll call for like a complete cut of all damage, and that's when we'll move him over. We did it on the PTR, and he was like super sensitive, like even if it was a fire totem, and it didn't even have to be like a searing totem, it would like pull him back, and then he'd pull him across the line and crap, and he'd like switch again. I fully expect to be able to like one shot this boss because it's really easy. I think we got it. Like, besides like some brain dead Chinese hunter on the PTR, like not listening, still shooting and pulling him back across the line, we got him to like 45% on the PTR, like first try. So he's not really that difficult. You just have to stop DPS because he does a threat wipe when he moves over. Um, when he switches elements, he is going to spawn 4 ads. Whoever was like previously tanking the boss will pick up 1, and that will be the kill target. And then the prop pally will pick up the other 3. They hit for like as hard as the boss does, so like our prop pally will have like the crafted resist, like crafted frost resist chest and crafted nature resist legs, and then he'll have his frost aura, and he'll be in a hunter group to get that nature aspect. So he's got, about like 120 resists of each to reduce that damage. But you essentially kill the skull target, like single target kill the skull ad first, and then AoE down the other 3. The only other thing is that when he is in his frost form, everybody just has to spread out because he can do like a water tomb that will freeze the person he targets and anybody within 8 yards of him. So we may see that happen to melee, and if you watch this video specifically, I'm pretty sure it does happen to the melee. But all the range should be able to completely avoid that. It's not an issue when he's in poison phase because he has a different ability, and it's not based on like player proximity at all. And that's pretty much that fight. Do we have any questions about this? This graphic is more or less just for like to understand where those lines are and get an idea of what the general area looks like. We won't be banishing any of the ads per se, but just something to look at. Alright, no questions. Easy. The next one is Lurker. So again, like once we kill him, we'll have these 6 platforms of trash to clear. When you first enter SSC, there's a bunch of fish in the water, and until you clear all 6 of these platforms surrounding Lurker, that will actually boil the water, killing all of the fish. But then when you enter the water, and every it's kind of like lava, every time you enter the water, and then like every second and a half or 2 seconds or whatever it is, it deals 1,000 damage. So we're used to in the past it being like 350 damage. So there's some little differences here, because it's also like right when you touch the water. So you can't do like a lava jump to try to avoid the damage. If you jump out of the water, right when you enter back into the water, you're going to get 1,000 damage. So, I mean, obviously, like, there's going to be times during the fight that you've got to jump in the water, do the mechanics, and, like, if you jump out and, like, miss the platform, you might take some extra damage. I'll just be, like, a lot more careful than you might be otherwise, just getting in and out of the water.
Always careful.
Yeah, there's no nice little ramps or anything. Okay, so this is the image that we've got for Lurker. He starts, like, we have to fish him up, so that's gonna be fun. It seemed like on the PTR it was like it only took like less than 10 seconds. But his abilities that he does, he's got 3 that he does when he's up out of the water. He can do a whirl, which is he just like puts his fins out and does a little spin, and anybody on the inside of the platform here will get knocked back. So that's more or less something the melee have to worry about. You guys will pretty much just be on these assigned platforms the entire time. only in a case where like one of the CC casters dies will we maybe say like, hey, can X person go from platform 1 to 2? He has an ability called Geyser where he just like randomly shoots a raid member and it knocks everybody in the area back. So if you guys on these platforms get hit, it's likely that you're gonna get knocked back. You're gonna get knocked into the water. You're gonna have to swim back up, and then just kind of continue DPSing. So those are two of his abilities. He's got the whirl. He's got the geyser. And then his last one is his spout. So how we're going to do this is we're going to use, at least for the first few weeks, we're going to use like one of our little spreadsheets that we like to do for Gruul and Mag to assign people to the platforms specifically. So you guys will have like an assigned spot on each of the platforms before we even get in there. And then whenever he does his spout, he's going to, like, I'm tanking him this direction towards this area over here. So he'll either go clockwise or counterclockwise. So how we're going to call it is just by the platform it's going to hit first. So if it goes clockwise, it's going to hit the hunters on platform 3. So we call platform 3 is going to get hit first. And he's going to spit straight in a line all the way around. And what you have to do is you just have to get into the water to avoid it. You don't really have to like swim down or like stay in the water very long. Just like when it's coming around, you have to be in the water and then jump back onto your platform afterwards.
Do you know if you can ice block it?
I am not sure. You might be able to. I might be able to find a log or some video. I haven't seen very many like mage point of view or like mage perspective of like really any of the fights. Most of them have been like warlock, healer,
Yeah.
tank, or
I'd
can see if I
imagine
can
it would
find.
work.
Yeah, I can see if I can find a video maybe.
yeah, that would be really nice. So you could completely avoid the water damage as well.
I thought that these spouts started facing the tank.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and then he'll just rotate around the rim. So if you watch, let me pull up. See if he has DBMs, about in 10 seconds.
Okay, spout's coming in 2 seconds. Be
See
prepared.
here, you can
Be
see he
looking
does like
at
a quick
Lurker.
whirl.
Okay, spout's incoming.
So there he
Okay,
starts.
it's
It's
going
going
towards
towards
Jump in the
platform
water,
1
don't
first,
die.
so they jump in the water. That guy does block it right there. That's funny. Yep, so it looks like he was able to block it. I guess we could probably see and make sure he didn't take a bunch of damage, but he would have gotten knocked back, so it looks like he was good. But they pretty much just, you just jump in the water real quick.
He's gonna do a whirl.
And then typically, like, before and after his spout, he does his whirl stuff, so that's something more or less for the melee to worry about. So after, what was the timing here? I'll have to double check on see when he dips. This is 2 minutes in, and I think they already had or they hadn't pulled him yet. Let's see. So they pull him around a minute 14. Then they get ads around 2:40. So like a minute and a half.
Okay, submerge.
Yeah. So he's there in the water doing his normal like spout, geyser, whirl for about a minute and a half, and then he will go underwater and he'll do his ad phase. So if we look at this, all of the ads swim up to where these X's are. So each of the platforms, and you can't see it on 3 here, but even platform 3 gets 2 ads as well. Those ones are the ambushers. If I look at the logs here, I can see this warlock got hit by this ambusher for about 2k. So it's not like if you're sitting there getting hit by it or like your CC breaks. It's not like, you know, you're immediately dead. So how we're going to do this is we're going to have enough CC on each platform to kill one of the ads. So if I take a quick dirty screenshot here. So for platform 1, they might CC this one, and then they might kill this one. So they'll kill this one, then they leave this one CC'd, and what the melee and the tanks are going to be doing on the inner platform is we're going to get 3 ads. The druid tank is going to pick his up here, and we're going to have the melee kill it where it stands. And then the warrior and the paladin are going to take their 2 ads over to this little donut, because this mark is in range of both platform 1 and 2. So you guys will kill your first ad, turn towards here, kill these 2 ads, and then turn back and kill the other ads that you have crowd control. And we have a minute to do that before he comes back up.
Can the ads be sheeped?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sheep feared. They might be stunnable. I could try to check for that. But then when the boss comes back up, he just goes back and forth in between these 2 phases. When he comes back up, he does a spout immediately, and then he does a whirl, and then he kind of just rinse and repeat until he's dead. Any questions on that one? We've tried to make it pretty simple. The only thing that's going to be is like trying to not overload one of the platforms because of that geyser just like hitting and knocking everybody on that platform into the water. You'll see here once we like have the group set up that like the caster group with the Shadow Priest might actually be split, because this platform 1 is larger than platform 2, but the Shadow Priest can't reach the boss with his Mind Flay unless he's on platform 2 or in the middle here. So we might have him sit with a healer here. Healers will like stand on the outside of the platform here so they can heal the tanks as well as the range DPS on the platforms. But some of this is just lightly subject to change. But either way, for the casters, you guys can't get threat, so this is a fight where you just like pump as hard as you can. Okay, next one is Tidewalker. Skip past the fun stuff. So we're going to, the video that I've linked here is from a Warlock perspective. So it's a pretty good point of view for just like looking at the boss, and then he also pans around a little bit. How we're going to do this is we will be tanking the boss here kind of before, like there's this little like wall here before you get into like the hallways, but there's murlocs that come in from the top and there's murlocs that come in from the bottom, and then every 30 seconds people will get put into these watery graves, which are these little frost shock icons. These are the spots where you'll get put into those. he'll teleport you into them. You'll take some damage, and then he throws you up in the air, and then you'll take like about 10% of your health and fall damage, and you'll just have to like run back. We'll have a healer that's kind of like positioned around this ramp. Likely our resto druid, just to throw you like a light hot, because there's not really other damage that you need to like that you'll be taking, so you kind of just need to be topped off before you get put back, or potentially get put back into the graves again. So we're gonna tank him over here between kind of this edge and this pillar. The melee will be right behind him, and the range will be just behind the melee, so you're not in melee range of the boss. And then every minute he's gonna do his earthquake. It's going to do a bit of damage, and then it's gonna trigger 6 murlocs to come from each side. We're gonna have our bear tanking the boss. The pally tank is gonna pick up the murlocs that come from the top. We're gonna have a hunter trap here, and then we're gonna have a hunter trap near the ramp. I'll be kind of running down near the graves and picking up the murlocs that come from this bottom side. So what we're gonna do is kind of pretty much just like hold the murlocs around the ice traps until we have enough threat to where then we're gonna pull them essentially right on top of the melee, right on the boss's butt, and that's when we can just start AoEing. We'll call for the AoE. The only thing that's really lethal in this fight is like the murlocs getting out of hand and like AoEing too early. It's kind of like the ads on Nightbane. This dude is just pumping these fireworks, and my ears are just getting destroyed. Like, what is that? All I hear is like, poof, 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 poof.
He's just going ham.
He's excited, bro.
Dude, just running out. Last year's fireworks, bro. Let's go light them up. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I have sound off.
Well, I thought, I'd have some
I was
background
totally
noise.
saving him for Friday before the new content
Yeah.
drop.
Well, I was trying to have like something as background noise because the other night I had like a little bit of subtle piano music, and it like flagged the video for copyright, and so it said that anybody that watched the video was gonna have to watch ads, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Anyway, so you guys are gonna get put into these graves every 30 seconds. The big thing is to like just not AoE the murlocs until we call for it. There's always a chance that the tanks are gonna be put into the watery graves, and when we do that, like when that happens, it's gonna be like a fire alarm situation because like we're either gonna have to have somebody else come in and like AoE taunt, or we're gonna have to use like Hunter misdirects and rely on like an AoE taunt, because it like the timing ultimately gets to a point where like I'm trying to get in a position to where I can like grab these ads and like kind of slowly bring them back here before I bring them back to the melee and we AoE, but like I might get about here and get put into graves for like the 6 seconds or whatever it takes, and then the murlocs are already like at this point and I'm trying to get them. Or like if the paladin gets put into the graves, then the murlocs are way up here and like I'm all the way down here, and so we're trying to deal with exactly how we're gonna make sure that healers aren't gonna get all that aggro. The big thing is like right when he does his earthquake, it deals I'll have to look it up again. I don't see it in here. It deals like 3 to 4k damage or something like that. But like if the healers were to like just start pumping raid wide heals, they would generate a ton of aggro onto these murlocs. So like it's important to get them topped off, but not in a way that's going to generate a ton of threat immediately. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the murlocs. And if we really lose a healer on this fight, it's kind of, obviously unless we could like battle res them or they can onk, then it's kind of like we get screwed, and that puts a time limit on the fight because of just the damage that's going out. So obviously we'll have lock cookies. We're gonna probably try to sync it up to where we can at least get everyone, like, get you guys spec'd in a way that one of you has 1-2 and one of you has 2-2, or like 0-2 or whatever. But if at any point you guys get put into the graves and you aren't at like full health, it deals 5k plus 10%. So if you have like 6k health or 8k health as an example, it'd take you down to 3k, and then you'd take another 800 damage. So that'd put you in the range of like around 2k. So if you aren't at least above like 75% health or more, then right when you get put into the graves, like after it launches you up in the air, that's when you should eat a health stone, so you don't die from the fall damage. Otherwise, at 25%, he starts to summon these little globes, and they like come in from the hallway, and they'll like slowly follow someone. The thing is, we're gonna lust at this point, and they move so slow that like it won't even be a problem. We're just gonna the bear tank's gonna move the boss back to the wall, and we're gonna kind of like slowly move around this little corner, and that pretty much negates that entire mechanic. In the video I linked, the Warlock was essentially just like seeding the boss, because the boss was just continuously taking damage, so the seeds were continuously popping. The big thing about the fight is that like we need continuous damage on the boss, as well as to kill the Murlocs, because there's 12 of them and they have 70k health each, and they come out every minute. So like by the time you get the Murlocs, like good threat, get them to the boss and get them killed, you have like 10 seconds and you'll get the DBM notification that Tidewalker earthquaked again. So that's kind of like just the entire fight. Any questions on that one? I think this is going to be the only fight that kind of holds us up, honestly. And we always have the option of like having another tank. Our comp, like our raid comp that we used in the past, had 2 warrior tanks, a bear and a pally. Jelly can always switch to prot, so that we can have like a backup tank in case we just like keep getting unlucky with tanks getting put in the graves and aren't able to like get them handled like in between that happening. Alright, next boss is easier than Hydross. This one is Fathom Lord Karathress. So this is like the High King Mulgar fight of Tier 5, just the council fight essentially. He's got a couple ads with him. There's one that's like it's a shaman. We kill it first because it drops the Spitfire totem, so it's useful if you're range and you've got your beer goggles on, to like make a macro, this /tar Spitfire totem. That way you can attack that needs to die pretty much as soon as he drops it. So he's got like an enhancement shaman, a hunter that summons a pet, a caster, and then it's the boss. So we're gonna have we're still deciding on if we want to have our bear tank in the back. We might just throw our Fury Warrior in tank gear in the back. There's gonna be this the caster summons cyclones, similar to like how the crone does in the opera event. So there might be something to look out for, kind of like behind you. But generally all the ranged DPS are going to be in this area, and the melee and the tanks are going to be up here with the bosses. we'll have one tank in the back with this ranged mob because it can heal through walls, unlimited range. So we're going to have like a warlock back there to put Curse of Tongues on it. We're going to have an elemental shaman DPSing it. And then we're going to have a resto shaman that's kind of in between like healing that tank and the raid. Each of the mobs in this fight have different abilities. Generally, like none of them are really lethal. The only thing that's kind of really a problem is the Spitfire totem. And this is one of those fights to where like you kill the ad, the boss gains that ability. So like you kill the enhancement shaman. Okay, he's not dropping the Spitfire totem, but now the boss is. So you just kind of have to be worrying about it the entire fight. But how we're gonna do it is we're gonna kill that shaman that drops the totem first. That's gonna be Skull, and then we're gonna kill the hunter. That'll be Star. And then the melee are going to switch to the hunter pet, and the range are just going to turn around, face the back, and kill this caster target. So melee don't get near it because they'll take a bunch of damage. And then at that point, everybody will just switch to the boss. You just switch to the totem when it comes up, similar to like Demon Chains with Ilhoof. And then you just like kill the boss. This was one that like on the PTR, people were like killing in their first attempt because they just don't hit hard. Like the boss is hitting half as hard as like our old streams on private servers, and obviously that's just private servers, but like we used to have to spread these mobs across the room and do a huge tank swap thing, and we just can stack these up. There was one of the videos that I had watched had like a pally tanking all three of these, or like 3 out of 4 of these mobs. The only thing it gets kind of dicey because the shaman has a frost shock. The boss can do like a little searing nova thing. So if he gets hit at the right time with the wrong abilities, then he could die. So that's why we're probably just gonna put like a non-prot spec warrior in the back, just kind of swinging at the caster mob. But this one should be free loot. This is one of those like the boss is clear in the back of the like way in the back. So if we go Tidewalker first, which probably not, then after we do Lurker, we can come up here and we could go to Leo and then hit Karathress back here and then go Tidewalker. Still a little bit up in the air, but I'd probably do Leo first because I'm not really looking forward to Tidewalker. Any questions on that one? Okay, I think my secret keyword I'm going to put in here is, what do I got on my desk? I'm going to say charcoal, so that's keyword number 1 for those listening at home on the toilet, is charcoal. Alright, so the next one we'll hit is Leo, so I'm going to do my little scribble scrabble. This we're loosely gonna say like, hey, group 1 hang out in this area, group 2 you're gonna be over here, hunter group you're back here, and then like the melee and the healers kind of get like the middle area. So when he does his whirlwind, essentially the fight starts by like he's got like 3 little mobs that have him like bound and like make him unattackable. You kill those, and then we're gonna try to like kind of get him, the boss, to the middle. That way we can have the entire room instead of like, it's kind of like on Groll, to where instead of spreading out and him knocking everybody back and being a complete like retard when it comes to his randomness, he does just like he does this little whirlwind that leaves a bleed on somebody. So if he can't even get to you by the time he's like targeting you, then he just like goes to the next person. So if we have him in the center of the room and we like use these back areas over here and like completely have the range kind of split up and leave the middle area for the melee and the tanks, then we can like use the area we have the best we can. The thing is, like, if you're not being like, if he's not whirlwinding towards you, and he should target somebody that he's whirlwinding, then you can kind of still DPS. The thing is, like, you just have to, like, if he's coming in your general direction, you just want to, like, spread out. Because if he comes down here and then, like, bounces between 3 people and, like, does some, like, low chance, but, like, unlikely but could happen deal where he's just, like, bouncing in between people that are close to each other, you're gonna get multiple stacks of his bleed. It's gonna tick for like 2k and you're probably just gonna like die. So this is how we're gonna like loosely do the assigns in here. That we're gonna have our warlock tank probably either about where this LE sign is or about where this warlock sign is here. So he's going to be in human form for 45 seconds where he'll do his little whirlwind stuff, and then he switches to demon form. And every time he whirlwinds, he drops threat at the end. Every time he switches forms, he drops threat at the end. So like immediately once he's done, the tanks are like kind of chasing him, but you have to like let them pick the tank or pick the boss up again. And it's the same way when he switches to demon form. Presumably he's like here in the middle, and the warlock can just attack him from where he's standing. But you have to let the warlock get aggro. We only have so many misdirects, so we'll try to use those effectively, but the warlock needs clearance because he's going to shoot like a fireball at him or whatever it is, and it's going to deal like an AoE around him as well. So he pretty much just needs to be there by himself. Schnauzer's doing this. He's already got a full fire resist set, so you'll be able to watch the threat meter and see, but like once he gets a couple good searing pains off, then everybody should just be able to like sit there and attack the boss. So during his demon form, he's gonna put like about halfway through it, he puts inner demons on people. So like if you get targeted by that, he spawns a demon that only you can attack, and you have to kill it before he turns back into his human form. Otherwise you get mind controlled and have to be killed. So you have about 30 seconds to do that. They have 12k health, and they're susceptible to holy and nature damage or something like that. But for the classes that like don't like anybody in here probably doesn't have to worry about it because you can just like attack them and kill them in 10 seconds. But you can like interrupt their casts, but you probably just want to focus on killing them. They don't do like a ton of damage. But yeah, if you don't kill those, then we're gonna have to kill you, and that's less DPS than the boss. So he switches back and forth in between those forms until about 15%, and then he'll split, and both his human and demon form will be active. The thing is, the demon form will have full health, and his human form will only have 15% health. So that's when we lust and essentially burn him down, because there's a lot of damage going out at that time. even just alone in a single form, from his whirlwind and the bleed he leaves and how he normally just attacks the tank, it's already like enough damage for all of the healers. But then adding in like his demon form attacking the warlock is a lot of pressure. So at that point, we pretty much just like lust and burn him from 15% to dead. Does that one make sense? Seem pretty easy?
There's mud.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's like, I don't know, everybody these days can download OBS and do PTR shit. So there's like a ton of videos out there on YouTube just of like kill perspectives and stuff. Pretty much he's just whirlwinding around like the entire time, and you're just gonna like do your best to like run completely like the perfect other direction when it's you that he's targeting.
It's one of those things where you like immediately have to spread, right? Like if you get hit by that, you're pretty much fucked. Doesn't it like stack up bleed?
Yeah, like it won't like each time it hits you, it won't apply a bleed. But if you try to run and the direction you're running happens to be like the next person he chooses to target, like he'll be whirlwinding and he'll hit you, and then I'm sure there's like a 3 second like internal cooldown or something, but like, you know, if he randomly just like is sitting on top of you whirlwinding, you're gonna get another stack of the bleed, and the tick can like get pretty nasty. Typically that's like a problem for melee because they're like still kind of trying to chase him a little bit, because melee are brain dead and just look at the, you know, the damage meters and everything. So for range it's kind of nice because like, especially for like Celery, he could still throw up like, you know, Shadow Word Pains and stuff like that and keep his dots up if he's in range. But you definitely need to just like run, like turn around and just run away if he's targeting you. Okay, so that's 5 of 6 of SSC right now. Let's hit Vashj real quick. And if any, there's a couple of us in here that have done this fight like together. But I'll try to make this pretty like straightforward. We have a really easy map here that we like to use. It really doesn't need to be more complicated than this. The complicated part of the fight is when he's or she's spawning the tainted elementals and people have to pick up the cores. So if you look at this map, this is like the map over here in the background. So we run up from like this direction. What we can do in the beginning is kind of like in the maiden room, you can like spread around. These little lines around here represent the steps. So we can kind of all spread up around the steps, and then when we engage the boss, we can, you know, all just like run up and already be spread out. So really for range DPS in the first phase, the only thing that you really have to be worried about is she puts like a static charge on somebody, and it's gonna hit you and people around you. So think of like those 2 sentinel mobs before Curator and Karazhan. It's pretty much the same thing. It doesn't ramp up, it just like hits for that like max damage that the sentinel debuff does for every tick. But you really just want to like, you want to position yourself in that first phase to where like you can kind of like move to like an open area if you're the one that gets the static charge. So if you get it, then you want to move away from other people. And if other people get it and they kind of like are looking for a little spot and you're able to like move away to give them room to where it doesn't hit other people, then you should definitely do that. So during the first phase, we pretty much just attack her from 100 to 70%, and you really just have to worry about like staying spread out and avoiding that charge. At 70%, she just runs to the middle of the platform here, and these 4 little shield barriers, which are like these teal circles here, will like bind her in the middle and make her immune to all of our attacks until we disable those. So what you guys need to know for this part is we're gonna have 2 core groups, and by core I mean tainted core. There's gonna be water elementals that are essentially like walking up from the sides at all time. There's gonna be like a couple hunters and a couple melee just running around killing those. And then every 50 seconds there's going to be like a poison elemental that will spawn, and those groups are going to like kind of be taking care of those. If you guys see one, you should feel free to call out the kind of the cardinal direction in Discord, because they're only up for 15 seconds. And how we do it is we have, like you can see these lines here are blue and yellow. We have a blue core group and we have a yellow core group. They can kind of overlap here towards the bottom. But essentially each of those groups has a melee, a hunter, and a healer. So if the tainted elemental spawns down here, a hunter might see it first. They say, it's west side. The melee goes and kills it. They loot the core. They use this add-on to target their hunter. He's going to be at the top of the stairs here because there is an elevation. So he would use it, throw it to the hunter, and then the healer in that core group is going to be standing by one of the shield generators. The hunter throws it to the healer right-clicks the generator. So the big thing that you need to know is that, at least in the past, if we miss one of these, it's okay. Any more than one, we've found that the fight got overwhelming because the boss is just kind of like, these other mobs are coming into the fight every 45 and 60 seconds. So just know that we're going to be doing a lot of chatting in Discord, like over voice, to get those cores kind of figured out and make sure that they land at the right time. But if you guys see one of those poison elementals, they'll spawn around the outside and they won't move, but they'll shoot poison up. So say they're targeting like this white dot here, which represents a healer. You can see like a poison bolt coming from the northeast hitting that healer. And so you could call out like, there's the tainted northeast, and then the hunter and the warrior or the rogue or whoever it is will go take care of that. But you can help on it, but typically your role as ranged DPS is to kill these striders that are going to come up. So the striders come up every 60 seconds. They just look like the final boss of Underbog. They'll be kited by our elemental shaman. You can net them using another weave net. You can stun them. They can generally be slowed as well, I'm pretty sure. But the thing is, like, most of the range and healers should kind of be up on this top platform. So like Vashj is going to be stunned right here in the middle, and she's going to be casting like this arc lightning crap in each of these quadrants. You should just completely ignore that. The the big part of this fight is just getting comfortable with what you need to do and positioning yourself in a spot to be able to do that with like as much uptime as possible. It feels really hectic at first, but you can really tell once it clicks and everybody knows what they need to do because stuff just dies faster. The big thing is being able to keep up with these striders and kiting and killing them every 60 seconds, but then also the Coilfang elites, which are like the warrior mobs, similar to like the ones in slave pens. They have a cleave, and so you can see here that the red dot indicates those elite mobs, and the blue dots are the tanks. So like really any of the tanks, because they don't really have jobs during this phase except for that. But we'll be essentially standing right next to or like right on top of Vashj and having those mobs faced inwards because they do a cleave. So any mobs that spawn during this time, they all come up from the sides. So it's important to like, as the Strider comes up, we might say like, okay, Strider northeast, our elemental shaman kind of like runs over from the side, starts to pick it up, and he's just going to kite it around in this circle because the Strider does an AoE fear. So this space, between like the top of the stairs and like the center platform here, and you can kind of see it over on the right. This is like clear space where, people might have to walk back and forth like melee if they're doing the core stuff, or like if they need to kill the elementals that are trying to reach Vashj. But just make sure that you don't get AoE feared by one of these, because then that, takes however many seconds away from your damage. And we need all of that damage to be going on those ads at all times. So your guys' focus is really just on the Striders that's going to be kited around. There is a bit of a balance because you got to make sure that the shaman has it and is kiting it, and that you're not pulling threat. Otherwise, then it's kind of your job to kite it. But just know that like typically we would just kind of move these clockwise in this area. If at any time, because these only spawn every 60 seconds, if at any time it's dead and another one hasn't spawned yet, you can just turn in and attack these Coilfang elite mobs that are in the middle of the platform. So there should always be something to attack. Just be very mindful of your positioning, and just be kind of mindful with what you're calling out. There's bits of information that are it's very important for us to know immediately when that tainted elemental spawns, because if it's like it was in the past, we don't want to miss more than one of those. Or like if we did an attempt in the past and we missed 2 in a row, or like 2 in the fight at all, we would all just like run down the steps and just die in a safe spot and like have to prep and pull again. And these last 2 fights, like Vashj and KT, are very long. So to get to like the end of phase 2 or into phase 3 for Vashj and then die is a huge pain in the dick. So like the tainted elementals spawn every 50 seconds, so theoretically this phase could last around 3.5 minutes or so, if we get all of them right when they show up. We get them and we don't miss any of them, and then people aren't dicking around with like throwing the cores and shit. But we're gonna have a consistent group for that. Half of those people have done this already, such as Slayers, so like we'll be able to have those same core throwers each week, and so hopefully that that complexity of the fight gets essentially like negated after like the first week or so after they are comfortable with it. I think the way other people do it is they'll just kind of like not have assignments for that and they'll just kind of throw it around. And then that kind of sucks because whenever you have it in your bag, it makes it so you can't move. You can still cast and heal and do all that stuff, but we don't want to clog up voice chat with like, hey, I'm not in range of the shield generator, so can I throw this to somebody and can you get near the southeast one or whatever? And people are like, just trying to DPS the dudes, and now everybody's trying to help, and now DPS is low and we get behind. It's one of those things to where we want the people who are attacking the Striders and the elites to focus on the Striders and the elites, and the people that are killing the elementals that are just like continuously spawning and moving towards the center to focus on that. That way everybody just goes in, they knows exactly what they need to do, and they can focus on doing that like the best they can. Once we deactivate the fourth one, so say we have these 3 down, we still have a Strider alive, and we say we still have like one of these elites alive, we'll say this one's dead. Then we have to pay close attention to the timers of like when the next ads are going to spawn. We don't want like a fresh ad to spawn when we move into phase 3 because we don't want to have to worry about that ad. It'll be okay if we have like an elite still alive at 50%. That's really the mark that we're looking for. We would kill the Strider because we don't want that in the way. But we can have an elite, just kind of hanging around, and we can say, okay, this healer might be at this shield generator, and we'll say, don't turn it in yet. Let's wait until this one gets here. And then, we would kill the Strider real quick, and then we'll say, okay, X tank be ready to pick up Vashj. The tank that's on the elite, keep tanking that, and everybody kill the elite, and then everybody switch to Vashj. So there's a bit of a timing, and that's when it gets like really hectic because we're trying to look at timers, we're trying to get people to like not do things that they know they need to be doing, and trying to make sure that we make a smooth transition. And it's kind of the same way for some of the phases of the KT fight. We got to make sure people are in the right spots, know what they're doing, and that we pull the trigger at the right time, because it makes other things happen. So for the most part, the phase 3, like that phase 2 feels like the entire fight. Phase 3 is just when we kind of go back to phase 1. So you're still dealing with that static charge. You still just need to spread out. The other things that are happening are there's like some bats overhead that are spitting poison onto the ground, and people get mind controlled. So we'll want to make sure that those people that are mind controlled get, feared, coiled, sheeped. That has to be priority because she buffs the people that get mind controlled, and they have that like retard strength, and do huge damage. So like, somebody ends up taking like a tick of poison damage from the poison on the ground, and they get hit by some like, chain lightning from a mind controlled elemental shaman, and then all of a sudden they're dead in like 2 shots in like 1 second. So you definitely need to be looking around you at your feet, where that poison's spawning. It's kind of like the void zones on the ground that spawn for like the nether fight. Except it ticks a lot harder. It ticks for like 3.5k damage, and it like ticks every 1 second. So like you see it, somebody splooges a goo on your feet, and you pretty much have to move immediately or you're dead. And then again, we just kind of spread around for the static charge when necessary. And really, because the amount of poison that goes out on the floor and kind of just the damage that's going out, and the boss still has 70% health, so we have to like burn her down from 70 to 0 during this phase. So this is when we lose or use all of our lusts and kind of focus on pushing as much damage as possible. And some of these videos I found are pretty consistent. There's some good ones of like I think the one I linked was an elemental shaman, so you can see just the amount of health that the striders have. They're stunnable, so like nearby pally can throw a Hodge. People can kind of do some cheeky stuff to like really keep it stun locked. But if you guys have tailoring, you should make nether weave nets, and just use those kind of when like the strider would get too close to the shaman that's kiting. Typically it shouldn't happen, but it's always kind of a little safety net. Any questions about that one?
No, but as the shaman who usually did that for us on private servers with someone else, if you do have the ability to make nets, please do. It will help us out a metric shit ton for taking that thing.
Yeah, we're probably gonna just like, I'm probably just gonna show up with a bag full of nets, honestly. They're so cheap, there's no reason not to have them. Most of the casters are probably tailors anyway, so like anybody and everybody can use them. And I'll even pull up this video real quick, because they're literally just like spamming nets. So here you can see the poison damage on the ground.
So hot.
And here you can see an ad.
Who are you?
I'm Tomorrow. Sweaty sleepers.
So you can see the poison damage on the ground. It does a lot of damage. Let's get back to...
We can still kill it. Wait for my call, as I said.
So there's the strider. Let's see.
Can you hit the onks? Finish up the strider, guys.
So you can see them kind of all in the middle here, up on this elevated platform. Vashj is casting her little forked lightning, which again you could ignore. Here's the shield generators. There's the elite facing the middle, and the tank's pretty much right on Vashj. And then the melee are running around and killing these elementals. They run up to Vashj. The skinny with that is pretty much that if they get to her, they increase the damage that she puts out by 5%. So I definitely don't want even a single one of those getting up towards the middle. So if you guys kind of see one of those leading up there, feel free to cast something on them as well.
Don't know, you need to search it. Range on the strider. We're gonna get a new strider in 5 seconds. Finish off the strider, guys. Come on.
Doing it now?
No, do not do it now.
Alright.
Wait for my call, as I said.
So you can see their elemental shaman. He's like super spaz with his camera view, but
don't turn it in, just let me know when it's there.
You can see it gets stunned. They throw nets on it.
Huh?
There's a net on it right there as he pans the other direction.
Get on the melee, get on the elite now.
Honestly, like half the spaz I am.
Seriously, he's just like completely jerking it. I mean, he's trying to like look around and kind of handle things,
I need someone
but
closer for the core.
yeah, see, like in this one, they're talking about like passing the core around between people, and it's kind of, that leaves things just open to too much risk. But like this first strider that they're on, like he's attacking the elite there, so like you can let the LE shaman pick up the strider and kind of get some threat on it, and in the meantime you can kind of hit that elite for a little bit. But really it's just like a balance of having enough DPS on the Strider to where it dies before another one comes out. Like that's really what you should index on doing. It's just like you'll see like the timer on your screen for DBM for another one coming up. The other Strider just needs to be dead before the next one comes out. And that's kind of like the gauge for how well the casters are doing. So there you can see the one come out in the back again. He's kind of throwing a net on it so we can get some initial aggro. You can see it like pulsing its AoE fear very frequently. But yeah, I mean, right when it comes out, definitely need to like let him get it. So that's probably a time you could like throw a caster 2 on an elite that's in the middle. Because melee, it's kind of same thing. Focus on the elites. Make sure there's only like kind of 2 elites out for a very short period of time. And make sure that all of those, all those elementals aren't getting up to the platform. So there's some shared responsibilities there, but ultimately the range DPS own killing the Striders before another one comes out. And then I'll show here in the beginning, you can kind of see another ad.
Here goes.
Here in the beginning, you can kind of see who I'm pretty sure he gets the static charge. So you can see there's enough room really here for people to be spread out to where like if he gets static charge, he probably doesn't. Yeah, so he gets it here now. He doesn't really even have to move because there's nobody within like the 8 yards or whatever. So he's getting hit for the 1750, 1650 here. But he's going to hit anybody else nearby with that as well if he's too close to them. So, really everybody should be spread out enough to where we don't really have to worry about really doing much moving. When it's really a concern is when it goes on the tank and the tank is rooted. The boss is tauntable, so like we can do a tank swap and kind of move the boss away from the other tank that has it. But if the melee get it, they have to run out. So just be aware enough to see who gets it. And if it's a melee and they need to back it up kind of towards you, then just try to be like max cast range to give them a little bit of wiggle room. But overall, this is probably one of my favorite fights, especially there are a couple times I switched from Prot to playing Fury for this fight and handled some of the core stuff, and it's just really satisfying to like go loot the core, pass to somebody, and like get some clean passes and clean dunks there on those shield generators. So that's all of SSC. There's half the boss TK are really easy. The one we'll chat most about here is KT, and that's another one where I'll do a mix of mini-map and looking at a video. But you guys have any questions about SSC so far? Obviously, that doesn't cover the trash. There's a lot of trash. And we've got our own little guides to reference for clearing the trash without letting things get out of hand. But we really want to really be able to get to these fights, get them down, and not have to explain much of anything, when we're standing in front of the boss.
I had a question about Hydross
Mm-hmm.
a while ago, but I was reading a guide and it was saying that it was when it's in like its water form, it was immune to frost. I just wanted to know, like, do you know if that's true or not?
Yes, it is. And it's
Okay.
also the same with the elemental resist on his
Yeah, I
poison
know all the
side.
water elementals are immune to frost, but I just wasn't sure because he was a boss. But
Yeah.
so
Is he immune to anything else when he's nature?
That's what's going to be my question. Does
Yeah,
that mean
he's
It-
immune to nature and his poison, and frost on his frost.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
damn? So,
So
what do
as
you do on
elemental
your
shaman,
nature? Yeah.
as elemental shaman, I just switched to healing.
Yeah, the
I was
fight's
playing it. Go
pretty easy.
Okay. I was planning on switching to arcane, but I just
Yeah, you'll be switching to arcane as soon as
yeah,
you get like 2-piece tier 5, I think.
yeah. I mean, I was just waiting to get rid of this frost sweep set because it's
Yeah.
like frost only.
Yeah.
Same for me, man. I'm just waiting on the 2 pieces of the T5. I have respect to fire though for the beginning of T5. I was frost, like deep frost, and now I'm fire.
Nice.
Yeah, because frost damage on water elementals isn't very useful.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's so much fun having earth elementals and air elementals be immune to your damage when you're in the ground.
Yeah, I hated killing things out in the world as an Ellie. They're just fucking awful.
It's like more frequently than you would even think, too.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's not that bad. When you get to 65 and you're just trying to kill anything. Any elemental you have to kill, you have like a 50% chance of actually being able to do damage to it or not.
Frost shock and fire shock.
Flame shock,
Fire.
frost shock.
Just attack it, man, with your mace or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I literally
throw
Wind
Wind Fury
Fury.
down.
Yeah.
You throw down Wind Fury, just fucking make it your weapon a thing.
Solid whenever you can get at least a crit on a frost shock or a flame shock.
Oh, it's so nice when that happens when you're dealing with that shit.
So for TK, I'm gonna do Void Reaver and Solarian first because those are super easy. No matter how many hunters we walk into the raid with, for Void Reaver, we can pretty much have the hunters, even if it's just 2 or 3, stand on the outside, and they pretty much just like strafe back and forth to avoid the big balls that he sends on to people that are in range, and people that are in melee range, including like right behind the boss, we won't get hit. So the only thing that you need to like be aware of with this fight is like the pull. So like when we pull, we literally have to like be walking on top of the tank, and then the hunters are already just like on the outside. So like the tank will like run through the boss, flip him around, and then the hunters are on the outside. He'll send his arcane orb out. He does his pounding, which will like hit everybody because everybody's in melee range. But the only thing that you have to worry about is the threat meter on this fight. He does his pounding, and that does a little bit of damage to everybody. But he knocks back the person that is currently highest on threat, and he reduces their threat by 10k. So you essentially need to be like 10k below the second person is I think how we're going to handle it. And depending on kind of how things go with like our misdirects and how things are looking, we're probably going to like play it safe the first time we do this, and like let the tanks get like a 20 to 25k threat lead before we have people attack. This fight's like incredibly easy. It can just get out of hand if people just like aren't looking at threat. But if like the main tank manages to have like a 30-40k threat lead, he can get knocked back, lose 10k threat, and still be tanking the boss because, you know, the next person was still 10k below him. The thing is, it just kind of gets to be a surprise when, like, he knocks that person back and he switches over to the other tank. Everything just kind of shifts around on the threat meter. So, pretty much, like, we expect with our hunters that we've got to, like, rely on misdirects pretty well and, like, you know, lust the tank group on the walk-in. But it's really about watching your threat and then just killing the boss. And so this was, I mean, this is 4 minutes, so it's obviously it's a really fast fight as well, but all 4 minutes of the fight literally look like the same. So that's a really easy one. Get some free shoulders and some free loots.
It is called Loot Reaver for a reason.
Rudy
Yeah.
Tooty, give me that looty.
He's pretty simple.
The next fight that we've got, we're probably not going to do them in this order. Maybe we will, depending on if we just want, like, good vibes all around, because these bosses are literally just going to be so easy. But the next one is Solarian. She'll kind of be standing here in the middle. And let me, I guess I can make this bigger for the people with my 720p stream through Discord. She'll kind of be here in the middle, and during her, she's got two phases. One, she literally just stands there and casts arcane missiles on people, and then she casts this debuff that's called Wrath of the Astromancer. So if I look that up, it lasts 6 seconds. It does infuses the enemy with arcane power, causing them to harm nearby allies for 5,400 to 6,600 arcane damage after 6 seconds. So after 6 seconds, you do like a little arcane explosion, pretty much. Your character is gonna like turn blue when you have it. And there's a weak aura that we can share. DBM should also tell you. All the range are stacking right here. We have 2 tanks that are going to be wearing full arcane resist. If you get the debuff, you walk like 10 yards over to where the arcane tanks are. You wait until that debuff expires. It hits those people and it passes it to them. And then you run straight back to the range group. And that's pretty much all you have to do for the fight. The boss will, like, during her main phase, she'll just be doing arcane missiles on random people. The boss does not have a threat table during that time. So this is another one of those fights where you can just, like, pump as hard as you can. So that's for 50 seconds. And then she'll switch. She, like, disappears. 3 little lights come out, and she spawns 12 of these like elite agents, and those will be picked up by the prop paladin. And here you can see him like circle. This is where the resist tanks will stand. This is where the raid will stand. Melee are obviously attacking the boss. Here you can see her casting Wrath of the Astromancer. She's going to cast on this person. They're going to run out over to the tanks. So this is him getting it. You run out. He's going to wait for it to expire. You can see 3, 2, 1, 0. He passes it over to them. Throws a couple heals. Or he still has it for a second there. Yep, and then he runs back. So the thing that you can see here is he's also got like a stack. You probably can't see it because it's probably super fuzzy, but he's got a stacking debuff that increases arcane damage taken. And then you'll have like a longer debuff that is like looks like Wrath of the Astromancer, but it's actually just like a debuff that remains after you get it. So I don't know if it's gonna show it on here because I think it's like the same thing. But you get like a debuff after you get that one as well that remains on you. So if you don't have the arcane resist tanks, these debuffs like jump between people in the raid and it just increases exponentially to do like just a ton of damage. And what we saw in the PTR is that people are having to bring like 7, 8 healers and shit like that just to like maintain the heals, and that just seemed like a lot of work. So instead, like 2 hours on the auction house and crafting some gear using like the soul essence shit, we've got full resist sets and we can just use this super basic strat. So she will disappear. These 3 little lights come out, so she goes away. 3 lights, everybody stacks up together. Prop Pally picks them up, and everybody pretty much just like immediately AoEs. They don't have a lot of health, so they just kind of die. And then that phase lasts 20 seconds. When she comes back out, she brings these 2 priests with her. You guys just have to kill those first. The melee DPS will interrupt them because they cast this great heal. But you guys just kill those first before attacking the boss. And then at 20%, she turns into a Voidwalker and hits like an actual bitch. Like she hits for like 2.5k, so it'll be the warrior and the bear tank that use the resist sets, and then a prop pally will be the one picking up the boss during this time because he's also picking up all those ads. But yeah, this is another one where like literally we should be able to walk in here and just pick up some free loot. This is pre-nerf, so post-nerf is when they changed that Wrath of the Astromancer debuff to a bomb. So if you remember back in the day or any of the other private servers we played on for Celery and Unmute, it used to be a bomb. You just run out. They'll end up changing that later once this is old content. But for now, we'll be able to use these arcane resist sets. Maybe we get to a point to where we can just burn the boss down and not worry about the incoming damage. But for now, we essentially negate like her only mechanic by having this resist set. So that's pretty much that fight. Any questions about that one?
I guess my only question is, do we have a list somewhere of like all the gear we need?
We just have the 2 tanks and they already have all the resist gear, so everybody else just can wear their normal gear.
Okay. I was just wondering, is there anything special we need for any of the fights, or are we kind of just normal gear throughout?
For you, we've got another one of our Warlock Schnauzer who's doing the Warlock tanking. For
Yeah, I'm a little
Leo.
undergeared right now anyway, so it's probably best if I'm not doing any major role like that.
Yeah, it's otherwise not
For now.
really.
For now.
Yeah, there's some guides for this boss that'll say like you can kind of reduce your incoming damage if you wear the Violet Badge trinket here that has the 45 arcane resist. Based on us using this strat, I wouldn't worry about that at all. So
DPS loss.
yeah. There's some of the fights where like I wouldn't be surprised if people found it more convenient or just kind of like easier to, like on Lurker, use some pieces that have more stamina on them. If for some reason your health is in like the 6 to 7k range. If you get hit, you get a geyser, get knocked into the water and all that stupid shit at the same time, might put you in kind of a weird spot if your health pool is not very big. Let me pull up the Solar video after watching 5 seconds of Joe Rogan. Alright, so this is the Alar fight. The skinny on the first phase is that Alar can fly to any of these 6 platforms. They're not like some of these you can see here, they're like actually like kind of these half circle platforms, but there's these 2 in the back that are just kind of like there's 2 positions at the top of the ramps, which is kind of where he is now. You can see the ramp that comes up here, and that's one of the spots. So this over here he's looking at, there's a tank over there at spot 5. This would be 4. This would be 3. We'll always start the fight with at spot 2, and then back here there's like 1 and 6. So during the first phase, you actually kill Alar, so it's 100 to 0%. We'll start it at 2. And you can see here that pretty much, the tanks and the melee are up on the platforms. We stand in a position and tank the boss in a spot to where everybody that can just be standing down in the middle here, attacking the boss and healing the tanks. So again, nothing kind of really special here during the first phase. The boss randomly flies between the platforms, so she might go from 2 to 6 or 6 to 4. So you guys will just kind of have to shift around and get within range. Then there's also going to be like when the boss flies across from like say from 2 to 5, there's a chance that one of the little phoenix ads will spawn. We'll have our prop pally picking that up and tanking those at the bottom. When those, they don't hit very hard, but when they die, they explode and do 6k fire damage. But they also deal 3% of the boss's health. So we'll actually want to save those for after we transition into phase 2. So you shouldn't really be like attacking those to the point where they die. There may be time where like if you're like moving or something, you could sneak an attack on them. We really would kind of want them to just hang around like the 20% mark and not die until the boss is in phase 2. So the only other thing to look out for that you guys need to care about is when the boss moves from any one of these positions to the next, there's a chance that instead of going to that platform, it'll actually fly up into the middle and do what's called quills, and will actually it'll just kill anybody who's on the ramps or the platforms. So all the melee and the tanks will actually just jump down. You guys don't really need to do anything. You're not at risk because you're already at the bottom. And then after he does the quills, the boss will either go to platform 2 or 5. That way, it's right up the ramp. Because if at any time, and I think he makes it in time here, but if at any time there's not a target within melee range of the boss, it'll do what's called a flame buffet, and it deals 2k fire damage to the entire raid. So in this example here, we'll see the boss do flame buffet he'll keep casting it until somebody gets into melee range, but in this case, he only casts it once. So we move from platform 2 to 1, and how we're going to do it is we're going to have 3 tanks. Actually, I have 4 tanks, but 3 at the top, and they'll stand in between these platforms. So, like, I'll be between 1 and 2, Jelly will be between 3 and 4, and Bear will be between 5 and 6. So if he flies across the room, we could make it there before the boss will actually cast his Flame Buffet. Because, you know, if he gets multiple casts of that off, more than like 3, then it would just kill everybody. So here you can see it goes from 2 to 1, and he's kind of doing as fast as a Tarn can walk, move over there. He switches and goes to intercept. But the boss casts Flame Buffet. The entire raid takes 2k damage, and then they just kind of heal it back up. So that's always a risk. We have the option of like having our Shadow Priest use their Shadow Fiend. That gives us like an extra 1 second, like one swing of the boss's attack to like get within melee range, or like our Boomkin to use Trent's, and although it's not super important for you guys, I think he does his quills on this attempt. But anyway, let me back up here. Okay, so the boss pretty much just flies around until we kill it, and then it will come back alive in the middle. So the big thing is anytime the boss goes away and comes back, it uses this rebirth attack here, and if you're within range, it does 4.5 to 6k fire damage. So here they have the boss, sub 10%. They're killing it on this platform. And then you'll see them jump down. And when it first comes out, it comes out right in the middle of this pink area. So everybody else is just kind of loosely spread over here. I mean, they're not spread at all, but they should be loosely spread, because the boss will throw down flame patches. So he was, barely just a few yards within the circle here. If anybody was closer than that, they instantly take like that 5 to 6k fire damage. And that's completely avoidable, so we don't want anybody taking that damage. So whenever we're just tanking the boss, there's like a tank swap mechanic because he does like a melt armor, which is like reduces your armor to 0. So we'll have to like do a little bit of tank swapping, but you guys pretty much just need to like loosely spread, and be ready for the boss's meteor attack. So you can see here on the screen, it shows dive bomb. The boss flies up. We'll all stack together. And then he comes down and he does a meteor. So it's standard, damage is split between the members that are hit. Then you immediately have to run out, because when the boss comes out again, he does his spin, he does his little rebirth. Again, that's an opportunity for you to get hit for that like 5 to 6k damage. So, we spread out real quick, and then we go back to just DPSing the boss. At any time, if, whenever he does his dive bomb, he's going to spawn another ad. So there may be 2 or 3 ads that we bring over from phase 1 that we would want to kill one at a time, because they would do 3% of the boss's health per mob that we kill. We kill them one at a time because it does a huge knockback, and it does 6k fire damage to the pally tank that's tanking them. So here you can see the big thing that they're doing really well, and essentially why they got to kill, is because after the dive bomb they spread out immediately. The thing is, afterwards, it does put those flame patches on the ground. So you need to be kind of loosely spread so that multiple people aren't getting hit by that and have to move at the same time. But it's more important that you're not too far from the spot where we need to stack for that dive bomb. So they're kind of loosely spread, but not too far away to where you can't get back to the stack mark before the dive bomb happens. And so there, the prop pally also got in. It can be put on anybody. And what's nice is that if there's something to trigger a snake trap, we can use a snake trap to even further split up that damage. So the prop pally brings in those adds to trigger that trap, and it'll reduce the damage that we take raid wide. We'll likely, like after the first, after it's do a dive bomb like every 1 minute. So after the first one, that's probably when we're gonna lust, and try to get like some solid damage in on the boss before the next dive bomb. But really, this part's just rinse and repeat until the boss is dead again. If for some reason we're getting down to like this mark where they are, where it's like sub 20% and the boss is going to do another dive bomb or his meteor, and we're like 5 or 6 players down, we may call for everybody to stay split up, because it would be better just to sacrifice that one person and they take like 100k meteor damage, rather than put more pressure on the only maybe like 16 or 17 people that are alive. So it's really important here just to stay alive, stay out of those flame patches, and make sure that after the dive bomb or the meteor that you run out immediately. Don't just think that you can loosely spread about where everybody was. There's some guilds that even were doing a strat where like they would have a marker, and then after the dive bomb, everybody moves with that marker, like no matter what, and then they split out. And we're probably going to do that for at least the first few weeks, so that everybody knows how far and how fast they need to move after the meteor happens. And those flame patches hit every second for about 2750 damage. So it's definitely important not to stand or go into those or anything like that. Any questions about that one?
Nope.
It's not really that bad. Phase 1 obviously is just you guys kind of standing around the ground, just attacking, and then not standing in fire, stacking at the right time, spread out, then keep attacking. So it didn't look like it from this stream, but for some reason on one of the PTRs, or not the PTR, the private servers we played on, the boss was like highly reflective, or not, like highly resistant to taunt, and it made things like complete dog shit, because whenever a tank got that melt armor debuff, the other one would go to taunt and that would resist, and then like I would AoE taunt and that would resist, and you just couldn't like really do anything. And then that tank just dies and it's just like a wipe. But it doesn't look like that's the case, so I'm not really worried about how much time this fight's gonna take, as long as people are watching the ground. Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna have 2 keywords And I'm gonna, what's my other keyword gonna be? Xano, what's my second keyword for people that aren't here but watching the recording later?
Oh man, I gotta think of a funny word.
I'm not gonna tell you what the first keyword is, so it's gonna be like a little Mad Lib or something.
Chinchilla.
Oh, that's a good one. Got some alliteration going on. So
That's hot.
The keyword's charcoal chinchilla. Okay. So last but not least, the KT fight. So this fight is like super hectic, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna be that bad. Let me pull up this video because I think that was probably the right way to do it for most of these. Even though this one's Fuzzbusters. So they already have one dead, so that's not a good one. I think this video, okay. So you can kind of see it here, but like Kael'thas, when you first engage him, there's 5 phases. Phase 1 is each of his advisors come out one at a time. So they're not really that difficult to deal with. The first, like, I'll literally just explain them by their mechanics. That way you don't even have to like think about who they are or what their name is or like what else they might do. The first one that comes out is like this warrior wearing tier 5 gear. His name's Thaladred. All he does is fixate on somebody and like do a knockback. And then he also does like, he's kind of like Shade to where if you get too close to him, he does like an AoE fear within 8 yards. So you kind of just like steer clear from him. He has this huge range on his knockback, so it's not like he's only lethal because he can melee you. He also has the knockback that is, you know, a caster range. So like if he just fixates on somebody for like 10 seconds or so. So you'll see him when they pull here. You essentially pull by walking up the steps. He has like an initial little aggro, and then he immediately goes into like fixating on somebody. So these people are running away, and you can see that like when everybody's attacking him, these guys don't really have too much health. But your only job is to like run away. The big thing is like the advisors and all of KT's mobs start up here. And this skull is this guy. We want him to die in the back. So we care a lot about where these mobs die because in phase 3, they all come alive at the same time. And if this guy is like up on the front platform where we all are in phase 3 and pops up and just like silences everybody and then just like cream pies one person, then
Fuck yeah.
then that's not going to be very good. So like we can let him die way in the back. That way when we move into phase 3, like he's going to start slowly moving up here and doing his little thing. He's going to do a little front flip. And we should have time, like, in phase 3, that's when we lost. So, like, you know, we're going to have all this time to, like, kind of just completely destroy this guy in phase 3. So we want him to, like, be essentially on the back wall as much as possible. So we don't have to deal with him, like, doing the cream pie thing or doing his AoE silence. So the second mob that comes out is it's a Ret Paladin, and he's kind of like Prince in that he's got like a thrash attack. So he's got like a shield and a nice mace, but he fears, so we need fear wards, tremor totems, and he hits really hard. So I'll be tanking him, and I'm gonna kind of have him die about where they have him. That's where this X is. So the important thing is like we're just really thinking about when all these guys come alive at the same time, what's a good spot for them to be in based on like where we want everybody else to be. And so this is kind of really like the just really good positioning. Accelerate and unmute. What we used to use in the past was like we would pull these guys all around the room and they would all be really inefficient. So this like I've watched a couple streams of people doing it this way, and you don't have to worry about raid or healer positioning at all in later phases, and that really like simplifies the fight.
Oh, that's fucking great to hear.
Yeah. So the third one that comes out is the caster. She's tanked by a warlock. So you can see the warlock here at the bottom of the steps, and then you can see the shadow priest like, just a couple yards in front of him. Anybody that's within 30 yards of this target is at risk of getting this conflagrate. So she normally just does a fireball and it'll be tanked by the warlock. But the Shadow Priest is really the one that's supposed to be there to do the take the conflagrates. So here you can see them kind of like completely spread out because somebody pulled aggro, and I'm sure these like British dudes or Ukrainian dudes are going ape shit in this video because that's all of these videos. But really, this phase, like this guy dies here, which is not good like at all. This phase is only the end of this phase is only triggered by all these mobs dying. So there is absolutely no rush to get these guys down. So like it is a complete waste of time to like pull threat and have somebody else die on this. That is a huge waste of like a battle res, and a huge loss. Like we can't lose anybody in these first two phases, or it puts way too much stress on the rest of the fight. So it should be tanked by the Warlock. The Shadow Priest is kind of going to be in 30 yards because he has to for Mind Flay anyway. And you kind of just let this mob die up here where it is. We used to try to pull this mob like completely through the raid to the back. And it made things really weird later because that warlock and that priest needed a healer way in the back, and it just made it really shitty. So that one will die there. And then this last mob here is like this engineer dressed up as a tier 4 hunter. All he does is throw grenades. So melee have to be at max melee range. Really, it's nothing for you guys to worry about. The other thing he does is he applies a toy debuff on somebody. I don't know if we'll see it here, but it lasts 60 seconds, and it like disorients somebody like every other second for multiple seconds. Like it's one of those like complete bullshit debuffs that's just the worst. So the big thing about this is like this is the fourth mob in this video, and this is always the kill order. So he's about to die. So they're about to move into phase 2. It's really important that none of our tanks have that toy debuff when we move into phase 2, because they won't be able to pick up their weapons that they need to tank effectively and keep aggro because they'll keep getting stunned. So because the transition from phase 1 to 2 is not triggered by time, it's triggered by that last mob dying, we may have everybody stop and let that debuff fall off of the tank. The thing is, he's got like 100% uptime on it, so right when it falls off one person, he applies it to somebody else, but it just can't be the tank. So you can't, like if you guys bring free action potions, that can those cure like a debuff every 5 seconds for 30 seconds. So like, in the second half of the debuff, you could use one of those and it could, essentially negate the second half of it. But as long as it's not a tank, we're going to kill the guy and we're going to move into the next phase. So these are where those mobs will die. And that's where they'll also res in a later phase. So phase 2, Kael'thas, pretty much like immediately after that last mob dies, he summons all the weapons. So with the weapons, we kill the staff first. There's a hunter over here that's gonna tank the bow and face it away because it has like a frontal multi-shot cone. And then I'll be taking the axe and kind of taking it back into like the middle of the platform, about where like Kael'thas is standing. And then all the other weapons are going to get stacked up. And we're going to, again, kill the staff first because it does the most damage. It has like a frost nova and does frost bolts. We'll kill the staff first. Then the range will kill the bow. The melee will kill the warp infuser, which is the healing weapon. And then everybody will cleave and AoE down all of the rest of those weapons. And then we'll single target down the axe. We have about... it's about a minute 40, a minute 45 to do this. And this used to be like a huge DPS race. And based on this video and what they've got, they do it with enough time to be able to go up, loot the weapon, scratch their balls, get in a position for the next phase, and get some MP5 regen. So I don't think this phase is really going to be like a huge race. But the thing is, like, you just have to be really careful with making sure that we kill the right ones at the right time. And it's really hectic because they all do come out at the same time. So the tanks... We're going to make a cream pie joke?
No, I was going to say, so you're saying this is our first ball scratching opportunity of the entire fight?
Yeah, of the entire tier 5.
Oh my god.
So I'll be kind of taking this back up here. These weapons will kind of come over here. This one over here with these ones. Those kind of all get right here. Most of the range, if I switch to red pen mode, most of the range will just kind of be like in this general area where you can see they are in this video. And I think this video is also a great example of how not to handle the bow. So the big thing is, like, you can see off to the side here, they've got a hunter in a good spot. On the servers we played, you can't really, we weren't able to have any pets on the bow because it would like his conal multi-shot would like hit anybody that was on his threat table. So like he could turn towards the pet, and if the raid was behind him, he could do his multi-shot and just like blast the entire raid. But he's supposed to have it over here faced away. And I think in this, in that one you could see it pretty much just like blasts the raid with a huge multi-shot there. And that combined with some other potential damage during this phase can just be really problematic. So he's supposed to be over there with it by himself, kind of faced away, and being able to shoot it because it just shoots him back. But again, we kill the staff first, then the range just kill the bow, and then you kind of switch back and AoE. So there you can see the axe kind of doing a little whirlwind action in the background. I don't know what got so out of control here with the bow. I think that hunter like might have died, but yeah, these guys like got through this phase and had some ball scratching time here. So the big thing is to kind of know what what weapon like you can go loot. So after we kill the weapons, we can go and loot them all, and equip those weapons, and each of them have like a different benefit. So for example, like the melee dagger will remove the mind control in a later phase, and really just the weapon's like super strong. So I think most of us, or most of the people in here, would just go get the staff and equip that. The big thing is with the staff is in this next phase that they're preparing for right now, the guy that does the fixate is, he's in the back of the room. So they're gonna like, once they switch to this phase, they're going to pop Lust and nuke that guy and just be ready to like completely blast him. The Warlock and the Priest are already in position over there. The 2 tanks are ready to pick up the other mobs or advisors that are dead where they are. So one of the big things is for the weapon, for the staff. The staff has an on use that we're going to have everybody to use. So, and we'll have to organize, but in the caster groups, since you guys are using the staff anyway, pretty much just after you equip the staff, you should open up your character panel and right click on it to use it. Or you can make a macro that like has equip and use in the same button. What it does is it gives everybody within 30 yards a buff that grants them immunity to any stuns, silences, or disorients, and that includes that toy debuff. So during phase 3,
I thought we were having Bear take the staff.
everybody can loot all the weapons.
Like, there's more than just one of each.
Yeah, everybody, like I can walk up and loot the dagger, the bow, the shield, and everybody can get one.
Oh.
Yep, so the whole group can walk up and get a staff. So even though even though the melee group might not have any people that actually use the staff, somebody still needs to get it because they need to use that on use ability so that they can grant their group immunity to that toy debuff. Because in phase 3, what's going to happen is all 4 of the advisors are going to come back alive at the same time. So immediately when like the engineer guy is going to be the square here, when he comes back up, he's just going to start throwing that debuff on people for a minute, and it's going to render those people completely useless unless they have the buff from the staff. So for you guys, it won't be a problem. Just make sure you equip and use the staff, not just equip the staff. And that's pretty much all you need to worry about. Otherwise, it's like huge spell damage, huge spell crit. So the fight kind of becomes really fun because you just start like really popping off. There's other little things like the healing mace grants fire and shadow spell damage reduction. So like that really helps with the caster mob there that the warlock and the priest are, they're tanking that. So it's pretty much the same kill order in this phase. All the range are kind of like in this general area here. You come down, you kill the skull, and you watch out for his fixate right off the beginning. And again, his knockback thing, his little cream pie action, is a 30-yard range. So you really, like, if you get fixate, like, you got to put your Nikes on, you got to turn around, you got to run away. Because he will definitely hit you if he gets too close. From here, you know, I have this circle drawn here around Moon. That's the range where you're at risk to get hit with her conflagrate. So as long as you're not within there, you're good. Just be max caster range from that mob when you attack it. The melee won't be on that mob for the kind of just for the same reason. So casters will attack Moon. Melee will go over to X here. Those will probably die around the same time, or like the Moon will die first, and then casters will help kill X, and then everybody kind of kills Square. Square's the one that just throws his grenades and shit. So that the tank up there is kind of just gonna like be kiting him in circles to like continuously avoid that grenade damage. So anything so far, that's kind of like the hectic part of the fight, and then the next two phases you're just actually killing Kael'thas. So anything that can be clarified there?
I just gotta take a piss. Are we almost done, or we got more to talk about, or?
Just the last two phases of this fight.
Okay, I'll be right back, but I'll be very quick. You can keep going.
What? You didn't bring your bottle? Like.
Well, man, where's your piss bucket?
Dude, I've been pissing in this milk jug all night.
The
Show me
lemonade
where it
jug?
spits.
Pissing in the milky jug.
Milky in the piss jug.
A little bit of milky in the piss jug.
The last two phases are Kael'thas comes out and we kind of just loose spread on the platform here. Tanks and melee are on, actually on the boss here. We'll have, so the boss pretty much just casts fireballs and he casts a flame strike. So like the melee will kick the fireballs. Don't stand in the flame strike. It comes like if you look at this, you'll see him cast it. It's pretty obvious. There you can see the Phoenix and kind of their spawn locations. But he'll put like a little animation on the ground. This guy wouldn't jerk his camera around. He'll put a little animation on the ground where he's casting his like flame strike. So don't stand in it before, don't stand in it after. So the only other thing he does, besides the Phoenixes, which we'll cover in a second, is he will cast like a 3 times chain pyroblasts. So it's like, standard pyroblast cast length, like 5 seconds or whatever it is. And he does that 3 times in a row. But it's kind of like that healing mob on High King Mulgar, where he puts up a shield and then he casts the pyroblast. So typically the shield, like, you let the first pyroblast go through and the main tank uses the bulwark on use, which gives the wielder 100,000 absorb for 4 seconds. The main tank uses that to absorb the first one, and then after that his little shield should be down and the second one can be kicked. So after that second one's kicked, he won't cast a third one. So During this phase, he may do that just one time. He may do it twice. We essentially take him from 100 to 50%. So there's a chance that happens multiple times, but really that's on me to have and use the shield, and to just be vocal about like, okay, here comes the second one, the shield's down, go ahead and kick this one. It's important. It has like a 30-second cooldown, so it's important to like make sure I use it at the right time and stuff, but I've done it before, so it should be pretty straightforward. The last thing here that we can see is these phoenixes spawn. Went back too far. They kind of spawn. In these videos, I just saw them kind of like spawning in about these two locations here on the right side. They pretty much just have to be slowed and kited by somebody. Typically, like, it's best to just do like an elemental shaman like they have in this video, because he can stay range, he can keep frost shock up. If his frost shock resists, he can earthbind, and like the phoenix just is casting hellfire pretty much, so it'll kill itself, and when it does, it'll turn into an egg like you see there, and it'll be an egg for 15 seconds, and you just have to kill it during that time. Otherwise, it'll spawn back into a phoenix, and it will have to be kited again. Some groups have like a tank do this, but then they take the damage, and shaman's good because their shocks are like taunts pretty much, so it's an easy like frost shock and keep moving. And then there you can see the huge ignite that he's about to cast, or he's casting in that area.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we know how much HP the eggs have?
It's always fun watching these because people don't spend more than like 6 minutes setting up their UI on the PTR, so I can never see like a health pool. I can try to find another one, but
It's nothing too major. I'll probably look at it at the time. If it's anything like under 20k, we can probably have like a group or like 2 or 3 people just go at it.
yeah, I could probably try to pull it up here. This way you guys can also see if you want to look at some of these logs yourself. China's been going ape shit on Kael'thas. All these logs are always China. Some of these guys like aren't even getting far enough into the fight to be able to like really glean anything from their logs. Damage taken, enemies. Infuser. So these are all the weapons. These are the advisors. Yeah, they didn't even get to this phase. And that was their longest attempt. Actually, they had an 8-minute attempt. Enemies. Sanguinar, Copernican. I think Kael'thas here. Phoenix. Yeah, so they got to phase 3 for like a second. And they must have had people die like all the time. Yeah, see, like these people are dying to stupid shit. Like that dude got meleeed by Thaladred. So I could take a closer look at that as well. But the last phase, so like you get him to 50%, and he stops doing the pyroblast, and he starts doing the gravity shit. So the gravity shit is he just throws everybody up into the air. he like grows in size because that's threatening. But he will start doing his little gravity shit. So he still has the phoenixes come out. But when he throws you up in the air for like the gravity stuff, they like discontinue moving. They just stay at their current health and stop moving. So the big thing with the gravity shit is that you have to spread horizontally and vertically because he does like a chain lightning that multiplies based on who you're around. And if you're stacked up on people, then you're just going to take too much damage. You can't touch the ground though, otherwise it'll like bump you back up into the air and do some damage. But after 30 seconds of this, everybody falls, so you need to not be too far up in the air, so that you don't take too much fall damage. I was trying to see, there was like a... Oh, that must have been his transition at 50% to phase 5. That like took some time. You get like 10 seconds of downtime when you transition from phase 4 to 5. Oh, they already got him at... Yeah, I think this is it, because he's like not even in there right now, because they like got him down to 50%. So you get some time to just like clean up whatever eggs you have left. And then he kind of comes out in his final phase. They seem to have quite a bit, because like the whole raid was on it there. So that's pretty much the entire fight. Any questions about that one? It's a pretty fun fight once you get past the frustrations that are associated with like the phases that are a little overwhelming, or the finickiness that comes with like trying to have non like tanking classes, tanking weapons and casters and shit. But as long as everybody kind of knows what they need to do and does what they need to do, then, it kind of gets to be like you kind of got to oil the machine a little bit with a few attempts. But, once you start firing on all cylinders, it definitely is a very rewarding fight once you kind of finally get everything lined up and get a kill. So anything besides trash that you guys feel like there may be any gaps on, or feel like you're not 100%, or don't know where to look and find more information? Or I'll also post these, this link is where I go to.
Actually, I had a question. Is Alar immune to fire damage? I assume so, but...
Yes, he is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because you can see there in some of the videos that like fire mages are casting Frostbolt.
Yeah, I'll just cast Frostbolt because I respect to fire, but for Alar, I guess I'm just gonna cast some Frostbolts.
Keep 2 sets of gear.
2 sets of specs, dual specs.
Yeah, go swap specs real quick.
I wish.
Yeah, only if.
If we wipe 3 times and you go back and respec.
I think besides like the obvious fights that people are just gonna have to, get comfortable with, I do think that Tidewalker is one of those that like there's just enough randomness in there with those Murloc tanks getting put into watery graves that um it feels like a good attempt can be like ripped from underneath you, and that is very frustrating when there's so much opportunity to like get in here and kill bosses and get loot, and to get in here and waste time because of randomness feels pretty bad. But I mean, the reason that we go over this in such great detail and provide all of this information is because we want to not have to explain things. We want everybody to at least feel like they know what they're walking into. And it's easy to like watch a video, but like we might do it a little bit differently, or it might be some old video that somebody finds and it's pre-nerf content versus what they saw, and now they're confused, now they're running different ways, and some of these fights it really only takes one person going the wrong direction to like screw things up. So hopefully this is all very clear and you guys feel like you have places to look and like references to make. I did record, or I am recording all of this, so I'm gonna upload and make this available. And I'll also try to timestamp it as well on YouTube so that you guys can get in if you need to and re-listen to, one or multiple of the explanations. But we're really hoping to, have high expectations for everybody. It doesn't, we've done this before, but it's been a while, so not a lot of this was fresh. And, we spent some time on the PTR. We spent a lot of time looking at logs. We spent a lot of time just the bosses we weren't able to see ourselves on the PTR, watch videos for those, and really freshen up and feel like we're ready to tell people exactly what to do. But this takes a lot of time, and so hopefully I'm glad you guys hopped in here and took the time tonight to at least listen while doing whatever. But we really want to have high expectations for anybody that's going to be playing with us. We don't want to get in here and really dick around when it comes to tier 5, like the kind of stuff that we've been dealing with in tier 4, and having people half-ass some stuff. We really want all of that to go away completely. We're not really used to this situation where we don't have like 25 people plus 3 on the bench waiting to be able to say like, hey, somebody wants your spot. We don't want to be like an ass about it, but we want people to not have that like feeling like, oh, this could have gone better, or like, that one person just like messing it up for everybody kind of deal. We want to have high expectations for everybody across the board. We have them for ourselves. So we want to make all of this available to, increase the odds in pretty much every way. And I know that, again, it's been a while since like we've done some of these fights specifically. And I know some people, it's their first time doing these fights, but, obviously it's going to take seeing it, and like, it's going to take a Lurker spout death to fill that last 5% gap of like that fight clicking for you. But we want to cover that 95% before we're in there, because we want to add like a third raid night for progression for KT specifically, because we'll be able to like get we should be able to get 6 of 6 and 3 out of 4 and like 2 attempts on KT within 2-3 hour or 3.5 hour raid nights. But sometimes it just like takes a night of doing KT to get this fight down. And so for, in the next 2 weeks or so, we're expecting to have like a third raid night. Typically it's like that trash respawns in 2 hours, so like it's typically not worth to like use that extra hour to like spend 45 or 40 minutes clearing trash and do like one attempt. So typically that like last night's like a 2-hour deal. But just to kind of set your guys' expectations, like we want to kind of raise the bar from what we've been what we've been looking at lately for our kind of our logs and stuff as well.
It's time to parse.
Do it.
It's just frustrating or I'll save this for after, but does anybody have kind of any final questions before I stop the recording and start degrading my audio quality by uploading it right now?
I'm just gonna wait till after, but it doesn't really matter. We did a fun system in the guild I was in for Lurker, where if you were hit by a spout, you had to put like 10 gold into like a guild pot, and then after a while you just kind of distribute the guild pot amongst people. But it's kind of a fun thing with the spout because you shouldn't be getting hit by it anyway.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
It's
I
like
think we always joked
it's a
about
shame
that,
pot.
but
It's a shame pot.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
I wish this was like kind of a game where like everybody was like had to be in person or something like that, and we could just like have a little squirt bottle and just squirt people in the face or some shit.
Just treat them like a
spray.
Like a cat, a misbehaving feline. Like.
Yeah, that's funny.
My girlfriend actually does that to me sometimes when I say things I'm not supposed to.
Oh my gosh, she just squirts you while you're down there.
Hell yeah.
I'm ready for that salad red cream pie.
Fuck
All right.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck.
Cream's any pie.
Well, again, I know that took a while, and I know I might not be the easiest person to stay awake while listening to, so I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this. This game's been, Tier 4 is pretty boring, so definitely like Tier 5 and onwards is what I've been looking forward to this last few months. Has been we kind of thought of it as a phase to really just like nail down our roster. So I'm really looking forward to kind of moving forward really strong and having these same expectations for like Tier 6 moving forward. I think we're going to spend even more time on the PTR. I don't know where I could spend more time like writing up and going over these fights, but it'd just take more time because there are more bosses. But
the PTR is also like really fun, guys. Like when Tier 6 comes out, we should do more organizing with the guild and try and get like a few like off nights. It's actually kind of a blast. And I know it means nothing, but you get to go in there, get all the gear you don't have, and like pimp your character out and go play new content and check it out. It's kind of fun. And it means nothing, so you don't get frustrated.
Yeah, those were really fun nights. It was more fun when we had more of like our representation there, like from our guild, compared to like one of the other nights where we just had a whole bunch of random retards. But yeah, it was fun. So we'll definitely be organizing stuff like that in the future because we do care about like everybody's play experience. I've said this to a couple of the recruits that we've had recently that if I thought that I could have just as much fun and create like influence and create like a just as fun environment with another guild, then I would have just like went and played with another guild. I didn't really want to trust anybody else with I mean, if they do like fresh again, then it'd be different. But like the first TBC classic experience, I wanted to like be able to create a really fun environment where we still have high standards, and everybody can have fun while clearing content weekly.
And 80% of our guild content can revolve around butt plugs.
We'll end with the plugs. We'll have butt plug be the third and the fourth keyword.
Butt plug mania.
Yeah, but we can't say the whole thing, so I'm going to stop the recording now.
Plug.